Trump's Greenland gambit is shaking the world's alliances. He's got Greenlanders fearing a US invasion. But this isn't just about land, it's a fight for Arctic supremacy. The Arctic, a vast frozen frontier where ice meets ambition, has long been a silent stage for global power struggles. Its icy waters, once a barrier to human endeavor, are now a contested arena where nations jostle for dominance. In 2025, a startling crisis has erupted, pitting the United States against its steadfast ally, Denmark, over the autonomous territory of Greenland. President Donald Trump's provocative rhetoric about annexing Greenland has sparked a diplomatic inferno, threatening to incinerate decades of trust and cooperation. This is no theoretical war game. It's a real-world confrontation where words carry the destructive force of warships. Greenland, an island spanning 2.16 million square kilometers yet home to just 56 souls, is a strategic jewel in the Arctic crown. Its estimated 38.5 million tons of rare earth minerals are critical for powering modern technology, from electric vehicles to military drones. Its geographic position, straddling the Atlantic and Arctic Oceans, makes it a linchpin for surveillance and defense in a region where melting ice is reshaping global trade and security. Trump's bold claim that Greenland is indispensable for US national security has sent shockwaves through Copenhagen and Nuuk, Greenland's capital, stirring fear and defiance among a people fiercely protective of their autonomy within the Kingdom of Denmark. The Greenlandic people, predominantly indigenous Inuit who make up 90% of the population, now live under the chilling specter of an American invasion. This fear, once unthinkable between democratic allies, stems from Trump's belligerent statements, which have transformed a distant policy debate into a visceral, lived threat. The notion of a superpower forcibly seizing a democratic territory feels like a plot ripped from a Cold War thriller, yet for Greenlanders, it's a waking nightmare that haunts their daily lives. This crisis is a crucible, testing the resilience of alliances, the sanctity of sovereignty, and the consequences of unchecked geopolitical ambition. This script dives deep into the heart of this escalating tension, dissecting the motivations, rhetoric, and fallout of a standoff that could redefine global alliances. Why is Greenland so coveted? How has Trump's approach fractured partnerships forged in mutual trust? What does this mean for the fragile balance of power in the Arctic and beyond? The Arctic is no longer a remote wilderness. It's a battleground where the drama of sovereignty, security, and diplomacy unfolds. Like a ship caught in a tempest, the US risks foundering on the reefs of its own hubris unless it charts a course toward diplomacy. The stakes are monumental, and the world watches as this Arctic drama threatens to redraw the lines of global power. Trump's Greenland obsession is igniting a global crisis. He's vowed to seize it one way or another. But this isn't just bluster, it's about minerals and Arctic control. The seeds of this crisis were sown in 2019, when Donald Trump first mused about purchasing Greenland, a notion initially met with amusement and dismissed as a publicity stunt from a flamboyant leader. By 2025, in his second term, concurrent with these diplomatic tensions, the US faces internal challenges that could impact its global standing. The Greenland crisis has not only strained international relations but also exposed vulnerabilities within the US political landscape. The administration's focus on territorial expansion comes at a time when domestic priorities, such as economic stability and infrastructure development, are vying for attention. This dual focus risks diluting the US's ability to project a unified front, both at home and abroad. But this ambition comes at a steep cost. Greenland's leaders have categorically rejected US overtures, with Prime Minister Mutteegede declaring in 2025, Greenland is not for sale. The indigenous Inuit population, comprising 90% of Greenland's 56 residents, views American interest as an existential threat to their cultural identity and hard-won autonomy granted by Denmark in 2009. Trump's assertion that Greenlanders might be eager to become US citizens is a gross misreading of their stance, revealing a disconnect that borders on imperial arrogance. His rhetoric ignores the voices of a people who have endured centuries of colonial pressures, from Danish rule to modern geopolitical maneuvering. The metaphor is stark. Trump is a modern-day conquistador, eyeing Greenland as a prize to be claimed, while Denmark and Greenland stand as resolute defenders of their homeland. Like a gambler chasing a jackpot, Trump's relentless push for annexation risks alienating allies and emboldening adversaries, turning a strategic opportunity into a diplomatic quagmire. The question looms large. Can the U.S. advance its interests without trampling the sovereignty of its friends? Or will this pursuit spark a conflict that reverberates far beyond the Arctic's icy shores? The answer could reshape alliances, embolden rivals, and redefine the global order. Greenland and Denmark are resisting U.S. pressure. They're preparing for a possible U.S. invasion. But this isn't just panis. It's a bold stand for freedom. In the streets of Nuuk and the corridors of Copenhagen, Trump's words are not dismissed as mere bluster. They are a piercing siren of danger from a trusted ally. Greenlandic and Danish officials are gripped by a profound fear of U.S. aggression, a reality that crystallized during a 2025 congressional delegation visit to Denmark. Every elected official, from Greenland's prime minister to representatives of its indigenous communities, voiced unanimous opposition to joining the U.S. They fear an American invasion is not a distant fantasy, but an imminent threat, a belief fueled by Trump's belligerent rhetoric and his administration's provocative actions. This fear is steeped in historical memory. During World War II, the U.S. occupied Greenland to thwart Nazi ambitions, stationing troops and constructing bases. During the Cold War, it maintained a significant presence, including Thule Air Base, which today hosts 600 personnel and monitors 60% of Arctic airspace. These precedents lend credence to Greenlandic anxieties, making the idea of a modern-day invasion, however, improbable feel terrifyingly plausible. Prime Minister Mutta Egede's 2025 rebuke encapsulates this dread. What is the National Security Advisor doing in Greenland to show power over us? The 2025 visit by U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and Second Lady Usha Vance, framed by the White House as a cultural gesture, was denounced by Greenland's leaders as highly aggressive, plunging U.S.-Greenland relations to their lowest point in decades. Denmark, a NATO ally contributing 1.4% of its GDP to defense, is equally stunned. Copenhagen perceives Trump's threats as a betrayal of a 70-year alliance, forged through shared values and mutual respect. Former U.S. Ambassador to Denmark Rufus Gifford, speaking in 2025, described the situation as devastating, emphasizing that Denmark and Greenland yearn for a closer U.S. relationship, but not through coercion or intimidation. Greenland's response is resolute: bans on U.S. Officials in certain cities planned protests against figures like J.D. Vance and a unified front against what they perceive as American imperialism. This defiance is a testament to the power of sovereignty, a small nation standing tall against a superpower, like a lone tree weathering a ferocious storm. This crisis is a geopolitical family feud, with the U.S. as the overbearing patriarch, bullying its smaller kin, Denmark and Greenland, and shattering the bonds of trust. Greenland's fight is not just political, it's cultural and existential, a battle to preserve an identity forged in the harsh Arctic landscape. Yet, this stand comes with risks, as the U.S.'s next move could escalate tensions into uncharted and perilous territory, testing the limits of diplomacy and the resilience of alliances. The Greenland crisis is fracturing NATO's strength. Trump's threats are alienating a key ally. But this isn't just about Greenland, it's about Arctic control. The Greenland crisis transcends a mere bilateral dispute. It's a crucible testing the unity and resilience of NATO. Denmark and Greenland are pivotal to NATO's Arctic strategy, with Greenland's Thule Air Base serving as a critical hub for radar and satellite systems that monitor 60% of Arctic airspace. Trump's aggressive posturing risks fracturing this alliance, as Denmark grapples with the betrayal of its most powerful partner. In 2025, NATO's Arctic Command reported a 30% surge in Russian military activity, including submarine patrols and air incursions, underscoring the urgent need for cohesion, not division, in the face of growing threats. The U.S. case for Greenland's strategic importance is not without foundation. Russia's 40 icebreakers dwarf the U.S. 2, and its Arctic bases house 10, 0 troops, signaling a robust military presence. China, with $90 billion invested in Arctic infrastructure since 2013, is carving out a polar Silk Road to secure trade routes and resources. The Arctic's melting ice, projected to open year-round shipping lanes by 2050, has unleashed a scramble for dominance, with 20% of the world's undiscovered oil and gas reserves at stake. Trump's administration argues that Greenland is essential to counter these threats. Yet his approach favoring ultimatums over dialogue undermines the very alliance needed to succeed. Former Ambassador Gifford, in 2025, advocated a smarter path, empowering NATO to bolster its Arctic presence with Denmark and Greenland's consent. During the Cold War, the U.S. maintained a robust presence in Greenland without annexation, stationing 10,000 troops at its peak. A cooperative approach today could achieve similar results, leveraging NATO's collective strength to deter Russia and China. Instead, Trump's tactics are alienating key partners, as evidenced by the 2025 visit by Waltz and Usha Vance, which Greenland's leaders slammed as a power play, further eroding trust. This is akin to a chess master sacrificing a queen for a pawn, weakening the broader strategy for fleeting gains. NATO's cohesion, already strained by Trump's past criticisms, faces a new trial as Denmark questions the alliance's reliability. The stakes are monumental. A fractured NATO could embolden Russia and China, reshaping the Arctic's balance of power and threatening global stability. The Greenland crisis is a warning. Alliances are only as strong as the trust that binds them, and the U.S. risks squandering that trust in pursuit of unilateral dominance. Trump's Greenland plan is splitting his own team. His allies are abandoning his vision. But this isn't just chaos, it's a superpower cracking. In Washington, Trump's fixation on Greenland is tearing apart his administration and the GOP, exposing fault lines that threaten his leadership. His February 2025 address to Congress, where he reiterated his intent to acquire Greenland, has sparked dissent among even his most loyal supporters. Some GOP senators and aides view the policy as a diplomatic catastrophe, arguing it undermines U.S. credibility while offering minimal strategic benefits. Political correspondent Alec Eisenstadt noted in 2025 that Trump's staff are quitting on his vision, with resignations signaling a rebellion within his inner circle. This discord reflects a deeper ideological schism. Trump's obsession with annexation and tariffs, seen as pillars of his worldview, clashes with the GOP's traditional commitment to free markets and alliance building. Figures like Ted Cruz, acting more like Trump's lieutenants than independent senators, are caught in a precarious dance, publicly endorsing Trump while privately questioning his strategy. The Greenland saga lays bare Trump's governance style, impulsive, divisive, and often self-defeating, like a conductor leading an orchestra into dissonance. Even influential voices within the MAGA base, such as media figures like Ben Shapiro, are beginning to push back, wary of policies that alienate allies and disrupt global trade. The domestic fallout is a microcosm of the broader crisis. A superpower divided against itself cannot project strength abroad. The Greenland issue is a fault line, exposing cracks in Trump's leadership that could undermine U.S. foreign policy at a pivotal moment. Like a house built on sand, the administration's unity is eroding, and the tremors are felt from Washington to Nuuk. The GOP's challenge is to navigate this storm without capsizing. But with Trump at the helm, the path forward is fraught with peril. America's fighting back against Trump's policies. Kamala Harris is rallying his opponents. But this isn't just politics, it's a battle for the nation's soul. As Trump's Greenland and tariff policies sow international discord, they also ignite a firestorm of domestic opposition, mirroring the defiance seen in Greenland's resistance. On April 30, 2025, former Vice President Kamala Harris delivered a powerful speech in San Francisco, marking her re-emergence on the national stage. She branded Trump's tariffs and economic policies, including the pharmaceutical tariff threat, as the greatest man-made economic crisis in modern presidential history, urging Americans to unite against his agenda. Harris praised the courage of Trump's opponents, naming Senators Cory Booker and Bernie Sanders, who have challenged his policies, calling for a collective stand to avert a looming constitutional and economic crisis. The domestic stakes are profound. Harris warned that Trump's tariffs, which could add $51 billion to drug costs and trigger a 12.9% price hike, are inviting a recession, a sentiment echoed by economists who downgraded U.S. economic outlooks in early 2025. Her speech resonates with Greenland's defiance, as both challenge Trump's aggressive tactics, whether territorial or economic. A mid-April 2025 poll showed Harris leading with 31% support in a potential 2026 California gubernatorial race, signaling her growing influence as a counterweight to Trump's polarizing leadership. Her call for unity taps into a broader national unease, with 60% of Americans expressing concern over tariff-driven price increases in a March 2025 survey. This domestic resistance parallels the international pushback against Trump's Greenland ambitions. Just as Greenlanders rally to protect their sovereignty, Harris is mobilizing Americans to safeguard their economic and democratic values. Her stand mirrors Greenland's, both fighting against overreach territorial in Nuuk, economic in Washington. The tariffs, like the Greenland threats, are seen as reckless power plays that prioritize short-term gains over long-term stability, risking both international alliances and domestic prosperity. The metaphor is potent. Harris is a beacon in a storm, rallying a fractured nation against Trump's tempest. Her words are a spark in dry grass, with the potential to ignite a broader movement against policies that threaten economic security and democratic norms. Yet, the risk of deepening polarization looms large, as Trump's base remains steadfast, with 45% of Republicans approving his tariff plans in a 2025 poll. This domestic divide could weaken America's global standing, mirroring the international rifts caused by the Greenland crisis and setting the stage for a turbulent future. Trump's tariffs are rocking global markets. He's targeting pharmaceuticals with a tariff wall. But this isn't just economics, it's a new front in international strife. The Greenland crisis is not an isolated flashpoint. It's part of a broader pattern of Trump's aggressive economic policies that are straining international relations and echoing the confrontational stance seen in his Greenland rhetoric. On April 30, 2025, Trump announced a looming tariff wall aimed at pharmaceutical companies operating in the U.S., demanding that drug makers relocate manufacturing to American soil or face steep import levies. This threat, designed to boost domestic production, has sent shockwaves through the global pharmaceutical industry, with major players like Roche announcing plans to invest $50 billion in U.S. facilities to mitigate the impact of potential tariffs. The economic stakes are staggering. In 2024, the U.S. imported $213 billion in pharmaceutical products, nearly triple the $73 billion a decade earlier, according to trade data. A proposed 25% tariff could increase U.S. drug costs by an estimated $51 billion annually, potentially raising prices for consumers by 12.9%. This policy hits allies like Denmark particularly hard, where companies such as Novo Nordisk, a global leader in diabetes drugs, rely heavily on the U.S. market, which accounts for nearly 50% of global pharmaceutical sales. Trump's tariffs risk further alienating European partners already rattled by his Greenland annexation threats, compounding tensions with nations critical to NATO's Arctic strategy and global supply chains. The ripple effects extend beyond economics. Denmark, already reeling from Trump's Greenland rhetoric, now faces additional pressure as its pharmaceutical sector braces for potential trade disruptions. This economic coercion mirrors the Greenland crisis, where diplomatic bullying has replaced partnership. The tariffs threaten to destabilize not only bilateral relations but also the broader European alliance, as countries like Germany and Switzerland, home to pharmaceutical giants, recalibrate their trade strategies. The U.S. aggressive posture risks pushing allies toward closer economic ties with competitors like China, which could undermine Western unity at a time when NATO cohesion is paramount. The metaphor is vivid. Trump is wielding tariffs like a battering ram, aiming to reshape global trade but risking the collapse of alliances. This economic offensive parallels his Greenland ambitions, prioritizing U.S. dominance over cooperative diplomacy. Like a general burning bridges before a battle, Trump's policies threaten to isolate the U.S., driving up costs for American consumers and destabilizing global supply chains. The question is whether this economic gambit will strengthen America's position or further erode the trust of allies already wary of its intentions. The U.S. faces a critical choice over Greenland. One misstep could shatter NATO. But there's a way out if diplomacy wins. The Greenland crisis is a snapshot of a world at a crossroads. Trump's relentless pursuit of Greenland has driven U.S. Denmark relations to the brink, alienating a vital ally and straining NATO's unity. The fear of invasion in Greenland, though improbable, underscores the power of rhetoric to destabilize, transforming a hypothetical threat into a lived reality for 56, Greenlanders. This is not just geopolitics. It's a human story of a people caught in the crossfire of great power ambition. A path forward exists. The US could rebuild trust by engaging Greenland and Denmark through NATO, investing in joint Arctic security without annexation. Respecting Greenland's sovereignty, as Gifford suggested, would strengthen alliances and counter Russian and Chinese influence more effectively than coercion. This is a moment for diplomacy, not domination. A chance to treat allies as equals, not pawns. As the Arctic thaws, so must outdated habits of imperialism. Will the US choose cooperation over conquest? The answer will shape not just Greenland's future, but the stability of the global order. Like a lighthouse in a storm, clear-headed diplomacy could guide the US away from disaster, but only if it acts before the waves of mistrust crash over.